Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner.
Hi there, and greetings to everyone seeking and hoping to find the true meaning of life, those sick and tired of this poisonous world, whose soul and spirit are bleeding, and of the emptiness and futility of this materialistic civilization. Welcome to our radio show, The Way, the Truth, the Life. Welcome to our world of supreme love and immortality, where all human hopes are fulfilled. Welcome to the world of Orthodox Christian spirituality, a world now unknown to the West, which once had the key, but lost it a long time ago, the key that has an answer to every question. My name is monk Arseniye Yovanovich. I live in the monastery of Ostrog, Monte Negro. It is never too easy to talk on spiritual issues, especially when it has to be in foreign language, which is English to me. I apologize in advance for possible mistakes. However, I believe God will help me to say the word and you to understand it. So, let us embark on our waves.
Good evening, my dear friends. Greetings from Monastery Ostrog, Monte Negro. My name is monk Arseniye, and this is going to be our 11th meeting, where I will try to depict first steps in monastic life, which happened 23 years ago. In the meantime, before I left the world to the monastery, I had to fulfill those commandments from gospel, give everything away to the poor and come after me, says Son of God. So since I had some belongings in New York, it wasn't very great wealth, but something I had. So my van and my apartment with furniture and everything what was in it, I gave as a gift to young friends of mine, young couple. They were both from Serbia and they were very nice young people. She was a fashion tailor and he did something in music production, I think. And they were very decent. I loved them. They were not junkies and freaks in the way that I had friends before. Those were nice pair of people, so they were very happy to receive from me the car and the full equipped apartment. They just couldn't believe that it happens to them. And there was basically everything that one apartment needs and what is necessary for one to live in completely equipped apartment. Also, I had some nice suits and boots. I gave everything to my friend that came to my apartment, and Also, I had a wardrobe full of things, full of garments and suits and everything else, with laundry and many other things that I did not need anymore. So I put everything in several big garbage plastic bags, and I went to Lower East Side Manhattan, and I found a few of those poor homeless people who were selling on the sidewalk some junk, definitely junk, nothing else. So when I gave them a fur coat and things like this, they couldn't believe. They thought I'm provoking them or something, that maybe I'm a cop or whatever. But when they have realized that I'm just a kind of a crazy guy who is giving away his garments and belongings, they just couldn't believe, and they of course accepted everything. So, but I have to admit, I didn't do that because I read it in Gospels. Only because of that. My heart was full of love and joy when I was giving away those things to those poor people. And really, it is much, much more beautiful and pleasant to give away than to receive. That's what I have experienced in my life. Wherever I gave away something with my full heart, always after that, I have received such a great joy and some deep hidden peace that it is hard to explain. And whenever I would receive something, the happiness would last for a while and then it would vanish, and the good old sadness would come back. When I would give away and make happy somebody else, that would last for a long time. So this time I finally gave away everything that I had, and I kept only those things that I needed in the mountains. I went to the store called Army and Navy, where you could buy classic clothes and shoes, and I have bought only those things that are going to be necessary in such unusual conditions, living out there in the wilderness, of course, in the monastery. I didn't go to the cave, but still, it was a different way of life. So, good shoes, good boots, wool cap, good coat, thick trousers, and things like this. And finally, I have said farewell to the world, and I have set on my way towards Pennsylvania, the monastery of St. Tikhon of Zadonsk. My good friend Ninoslav came with his van to help me to take all my things that I have prepared for monastic life, and also the boards that I have prepared for painting icons and all those materials that I needed in the monastery. And there was a number of friends that they wanted to go with us and to be with me together on our trip towards Pennsylvania. So the van was almost full with my friends, so we were singing and laughing, and it was deep in myself. I was feeling certain sweet sadness. I mean, generally, I was really happy, but still. But those friends of mine, they helped me to avoid deeper bitterness of leaving the world. But still, I was not forced. Nobody pushed me to do that. It was my free will. And I was feeling really happy and really free. It was some kind of really an ultimate freedom that I was feeling in those moments. Finally, we have arrived at the monastery, and the bishop, at that time it was Bishop Herman of Pennsylvania and Philadelphia. In the beginning, they have given me a room in the dormitory building for the students, seminary students, because the novices didn't go straight away to the monastery dormitory building, because of course they never know, is somebody really going to stay, or it is just a temporarily idea for somebody. So finally my friends went back to New York to their daily obligations, and finally I have stayed alone in my room with my whole life behind me. And I was thinking, what have I done? Is this really what will be fruitful for me, or I have made a wrong step, a wrong move that is going to cost me a lot? And at the same time, other thoughts were coming to my mind telling me, this is the right way you have chosen. This is the thing that you have been looking for all your life. Do not lament. Do not be sad. Rejoice. This is the way of life that you have always searching. So it was kind of a mental war in my mind. From the left side, thoughts of despair, and from the right side, thoughts of happiness. And I was deeply convinced in myself that always in your life, when you make really serious and big steps, always the storm of thoughts and feelings are arising. And in those moments we just have to endure, and then it will pass away and the storm will calm down and the surface of the lake of my soul will be smooth again, and I will be able to see my face in the reflex of the surface like the moon. So my life started. I have received obedience to fix the frescoes in the church. They have been done not real fresco technique with plaster and mortar, but they've been applied on the walls with acrylic paints. So many of those frescoes, by time and from the humidity, they started to decay and to lose the freshness, and on some places they were even peeling off from the walls. So the abbot of the monastery told me, since I was a painter, an artist, to try to fix them the best I can. So it was very nice obedience for me in the very beginning of my life in the monastery, because during the day I would prepare all the tools and paints. So I would prepare palette, colors and brushes, and also a hair dryer, because hair dryer is very efficient when you work with acrylic paints. So it dries faster and you can see what you do. It's much easier for me than when you wait with oil colors, because they dry through several days. So I would spend whole mornings and early afternoons in the church, the place where I was feeling like at home. And I was fixing those frescoes on the walls, the murals. And of course I was praying all the time, and I was thinking what is going to be with me and what is really waiting me in the future as a monk. Is this going to be a successful enterprise for me, or something that I will receive only defeat? And during those days working in the church, also a lot of thoughts were coming to my mind, again from left and from right side, discouraging and encouraging thoughts. But as the days were passing by, and as I was praying more and more, being on the church services and receiving communion more frequently than when I was in the world, my inner state was calming down and becoming more stable. And more I was feeling that this was really what I was looking for, and that basically and definitely I am feeling good. The visitations of God's grace were coming to me very often, and in those moments I would feel like I was in paradise. Just to listen to this or to read about this, it's one thing, and to go through it, to have those actual feelings in yourself, is something completely different, and it's another thing. And I'm trying to convey all those mysterious feelings that were coming to me in those first years of my conversion into the faith, into the coming closer to the Lord, Creator of the universe, and how beautiful He is, and how tender He is, and how sweet He is to those who are dedicating themselves, their lives to Him. There in the monastery, I didn't feel this before. It started to happen something very strange, mysterious and beautiful. I have had experience of divine light and divine visitations in my soul and in my mind, and those were beautiful moments still back in the world. But now in the monastery, after 1 month, started to happen something really very unusual and to me very puzzling. I would be always puzzled. What is this? Is this something real, or I am getting deluded by demonic powers? So it started one day early in the morning when we would get up before the church service. Church service was starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, and usually I was waking up about 4 o'clock. Although I had a special time for prayer around 1 o'clock after midnight, I would wake up and I would pronounce a certain number of prayers, and a few prayer ropes I would turn around. I would pray mental prayer on prayer rope. Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner. Then I would go back to sleep, and then I would wake up again at 4 o'clock and prepare myself for the church. And one morning it happened that I felt a very, very beautiful smell, very beautiful fragrance, and very concretely in my nose and in my forehead. But I couldn't say what kind of fragrance is this. It didn't resemble any fragrance that I was able to feel in the world in my previous life. So in the beginning I thought it is something from the monastery, or some of the brothers in other monastic cells would burn incense, some special incense that I didn't experience in my life before, maybe some beautiful fragrance from Mount Athos, from Holy Mountain in Greece. So I would go out of my cell to the bathroom to wash my face and to brush my teeth. And in those moments this fragrance would even go stronger. So I thought it must be coming from some of the monastic cells. So slowly, that nobody can hear me, I would go in the deep dark, in the early morning, to the other cells, and I would sniff right next to the door, right next to the keyhole, to see whether this beautiful fragrance is coming out from one of those cells. But to my great surprise, there was no any incense burning from any of those cells. So I would go back to my cell, and I was thinking, what is this going? Am I going crazy, or is this really something dangerous? Because I have already read in books of Holy Fathers that it is very, very serious thing when you go into the prayer and into the spiritual life, because the demons could pretend and could give you certain experiences of feelings and special states of mind and soul, but this is delusion. It doesn't come from the Lord, and they do that to unexperienced Christians, to delude them and to make them leave their destination towards Lord, and if they can, to make them crazy. So I was always, after reading those books, I was always careful not to accept many of those seductive feelings that many of those unexperienced Christians in many other denominations, especially Pentecostals and others, and of course in the Far East meditations, they receive everything they come to them. Smells, taste in their mouth, sounds, or things they can see. It is extremely dangerous, because only in the Orthodox Christianity, the Holy Fathers, they warn us not to accept whatever come to you before you counsel experienced people in spiritual life. Because many went crazy, went mad. They lost their minds accepting everything that they come to them. And especially today, in these cheap times, spiritually cheap times, called New Age, when young, poor people thirsting for spiritual fulfillment, they're accepting everything that comes to them. And it is extremely dangerous, because a lot of people this way lost their minds. And it is always extremely important to consult Holy Fathers if we have experienced priests or monks around us, or if not, to consult books from the Holy Fathers where they explain in detail whatever all those things and this spiritual combat that takes place when somebody sets on his way towards the Lord. But still, I couldn't find anything that really was showing that this was a delusion. And I was praying a lot, and I was confessing this on confession to the bishop, and he was saying, be careful and use this warning from the Holy Fathers. Holy Fathers say, for those who are unexperienced, they say, do not accept, do not refuse, stay in the middle and wait. God is not going to get angry on you if you do not accept something that comes from Him. Moreover, He will grant you because He will see that you are careful, that you are cautious, and that you are not proud, thinking that you are already holy and that you are a saint, and whatever comes to you, that it comes from the Lord. Many things are coming from demons, and they are seducing us in order to make us mad or even to commit a suicide. And did happen to some who thought that they are already on the height of spiritual ladder and that they don't need counsel anymore and that they can accept whatever comes to them because it is from the Lord. But in a couple of weeks I have realized that it comes very often and it is really a gift from the Lord, because I was really repenting deeply and bitterly, and I was praying a lot. I was very fervent in my church services, in my obediences. I was not only painting in the church, I was cutting grass, I was working in the garden, I was working in the carpentry shop, I was working everything and everywhere, and I didn't hide myself from any obedience. And I was taking communion, and I was always confessing all my thoughts and all those happenings that they were taking place in my life in those first days in the monastery. So I have definitely understood that this fragrance were coming to me from divine heights, and it was a gift for my small sacrifice because I have left the world. And also besides the beautiful fragrance, which was really extremely beautiful, and it is really hard to explain the beauty and the depth of this impact whenever this fragrance would come to me. And then, many years later on, I have learned that this fragrance, this divine fragrance that comes from the world from above, is something real, is something that really exists. And very often it comes from the holy relics of from the saints. Sometimes those holy relics are just bones, but sometimes the whole tissue is there. And I have seen this very often in Orthodox Christianity. We have these holy relics, and very often this beautiful fragrance is coming out from those even bones or from the whole body, which stays incorrupt for many centuries. And this beautiful fragrance is very often coming from them. Sometimes even the myrrh is leaking out from those holy relics. Those are miracles that take place in real faith, in Orthodox Christian faith. Somebody will say, oh, don't give me that. God's miracles are everywhere, yes, but I have never seen anywhere holy relics incorrupt for many centuries, that they are smelling beautiful, and that they are even gushing myrrh, beautiful fragrance myrrh, and many other things that I will talk about maybe later. Very often this beautiful peace would come to me, joy, beautiful and extreme happiness, just from nowhere. And I would feel like I am really celebrating some beautiful feast day, and I didn't know where does it come from. And of course also very often this divine light would come to me. And in those moments, although it was maybe the midnight or early morning when it was still dark, everything would shine in my room. Of course, not really like I would see that with my open eyes, because this is only given to the holy people, to the saints. But I would see that I'm burning from inside, that everything is enlightened inside of me. Everything was shining and I was illumined from inside, and it was something really extremely beautiful. When I would close my eyes, everything was bright around me, like I was in the midday of some summer day. So the days were passing by, and I was really faced with a small temporal holiness. So after about 1 month, I have received a blessing that I can move into the monastery building. I was really happy because now I have received also a blessing to dress in the black monastic robe, the same like Orthodox priests are wearing. It is basically the same garment. So now I was practically already a monk. Although I didn't give vows, I was still a novice, but I was dressed as a monk in a long dress-like called cassock. I have received a belt and the monastic cap with cross on my forehead. My beard was already pretty long, so it was great joy for me. I have received a small cell, didn't have any special comfort. Wall closet, table, chair, bed, and a bookshelf. But it was like a king's palace to me. The whole world was mine, and the universe would very often come to my small heart and make me like the beautiful celebration is taking place in my small room. I cannot explain the happiness and joy that I was feeling those blessed days, beginnings of my monastic life. But what was taking place now? The problem is, in spiritual life, we need experienced guides. This is extremely necessary and important, because it is like a vast ocean in front of us. If we don't know the winds and the rules of sailing, we can sink in the depths of the ocean very easily and to diminish, to lose our lives, either mentally or completely. And I have to admit, those monks, priests, and the bishop that I have found in that monastery, they were not that experienced in very intense spiritual combat that I was undergoing. I was always in my life I was always going into the extremes in my life. When I was in the world, living sinful life, I was always in extremes. So now, when I have discovered this way of light, this way of life, I plunged myself in it also to the extreme. And I was praying a lot. I was doing a lot of prostrations. I was keeping vigils. I was fasting a lot. And I was doing everything as a mean to clean myself as fast as possible. But of course, in spiritual life, nothing can be accomplished fast without gradual improvement and gradual walking towards purity. So everything which is fast and unexperienced is very dangerous. So what actually happened to me? Something very common. So it is like always like this in the spiritual life. In the beginning, when the grace is there, we are covered and protected from the demonical influences. But they are there. They are waiting for us. They are waiting for us to be more relaxed and not to take care anymore about being cautious in all those things that they are very important. And this is called humility. Humility in terms of to be opposite of pride. Because arrogant man who is full of conceit, thinks that he knows everything the best and that nothing wrong and bad can happen to him. And moreover, he thinks that he is better than others. So when somebody thinks that he is better than others, there is no more love in there. And slowly it sneaks in hatred. First, we despise others. And to despise is not far away from to hate. And during the course of time, living in a monastery, out of all those extremely non-usual feelings that I was aware of, slowly I started to think that I'm different than other monks in the monastery. It was not a big monastery, it was something like 10 of us. And I was looking at others and thinking Well, they're not praying that much as I do. They do not fast as I fast. They sleep a lot. They eat a lot. Sometimes they do not come in the church. And I started to think that I'm somehow above them, that I'm more holy than them. This thought came to me that God loves me more than them because He gives me all these mysterious insights. And they, look at them, they're so simple. They live so simple life. Of course, it was influence from the very hell. And actually, it's nothing new and nothing strange in this world. We are all always thinking that we are better than others and we deserve more than others. And in the base of everything lays that we do not love our fellow men. We do not love others. We love ourselves and maybe those close to us. But even that love is very problematic.